Hi everyone, welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel if you've been here before. Please hit the subscribe button if you have not subscribed yet already to my channel. Please hit the bell button to get an alert every time I upload new content, and if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. That would make me very happy. Today's video is this. It is using the Zoeva Cocoa Blend palette, which I bought on my honeymoon. And it's also a chatty get ready with me going over the London portion of my honeymoon, which is where I bought the Cocoa Blend palette. So if you'd like to see how I got this look, and if you would like to hear about the London leg of my honeymoon, please keep watching. All right, so I've already moisturized and put on an SPF and used my Milani Make It Last setting spray. And I will try to remember to mention all the things that I'm using, but if I don't, I will also always include what it is on the screen. I really want to make sure that I'm hitting all the honeymoon points, so that's where my kind of brain will be. Also in putting on makeup, but not in terms of catching up on what I'm using. So this is my MAC Painterly Paint Pot. So I left off on Paris. So after Paris, we went back to London and on the Eurostar. And the first night in London, we had dinner at a restaurant called Bob Ricard. So it wasn't like I told everybody it was our honeymoon, but if people asked if it was a special occasion, it was, because it was our honeymoon and it was my only marriage. First time I've been married. Never been on a honeymoon before. Don't imagine that I will ever again. Although we always talk about kind of having the endless honeymoon. Oh, and also the big thing today is I bought the Zoeva Cocoa Blend palette. So this is what I'm going to use today. And I'll insert a picture of all of the colors and all of the loveliness. And I'll tell you which colors I'm using in the screen. So the first night there in London, we went to a restaurant called Bob Ricard, which was recommended by a friend. And it is another restaurant, another place like the bar at St. Pancras, where there is an on-demand champagne button, and if you press the button, then they come to the table and they pour you champagne. I mean, seriously. And I told them that it was our honeymoon, and they brought this dessert, and I'll insert a video of it here. When it arrived at the table, it looked, because it had kind of like a column with the glitter on it, and of course I was assuming that it was inedible, that it was just like a cardboard cylinder, like a toilet paper roll or a paper towel roll or something with some whipped cream on the top, because it did not look edible because it was so glittery. But it was edible. It was edible glitter, and it was delicious. It was, wow, so good. It was like a raspberry and strawberry. It was like a cheesecake and cake kind of. I didn't take a picture of the inside of it, but it was kind of like a layered cake cheesecake thing with this delicious berry filling, and it was just so sparkly and pretty too. So that was amazing. I'm going to bring you in a little bit just because this is a new palette, and I just want to bring you closer. So far I've used these guys. I used this on my full lid. I used these two in the crease, and now I'm going to go in with this guy up here. So then the next day we went to Bletchley Park. And Bletchley Park, if you're not aware of it, was a place where there were these female, mostly female, some male, but mostly female code breakers during the war. It's the place where the Turing machine was. It's no longer there, but because they dismantled it after the war. But they're actually putting something like it together now. There are these engineers that are working on it. It's kind of amazing. And all of the buildings are still there. They're not all tourable. We went into a lot of the outbuildings. We called it the code breaking Louvre, I think is what we called it, because the Louvre is, I mean, you go to the Louvre and I mean, you go to the Mona Lisa and you go to Venus de Milo, but then I don't know what the math is. I'll see if I can find it. but you're never going to see everything in the Louvre, and you're never going to see everything at Bletchley Park. We missed a lot of like big things. There was a radio museum that we missed. Now I'm going to go in with Subtle Blend, a little bit more on the outside. Yeah, when you go there, we went there with a friend who lives there, and she might go back. They give you when you go into the entrance, your ticket is good for a year. And when we went in, we were thinking, well, that's ridiculous. Why would I go back here? Because it's not far away. It's maybe like a 40-minute train ride, but oh my God, if I lived there, I would definitely go there more often because there's so much to see. So we went to a lot of the outbuildings. That's where they did all of the work, where they received the codes and worked on the codes and did all those things. And we also went to, they had a really interesting exhibit in the front where you first go into the ticket, where you first go into the ticket area, where and I'm going to go in with warm notes. So there's an area in the front of the museum where you buy the tickets, where they have kind of an intro to the park, kind of broad history, a lot of the machines, the actual machines that they used, and ones that were not destroyed or ones that were found later. They had to destroy a lot of things after the war because of security reasons, like they couldn't leave evidence of really what they were doing. But they also had an exhibit of code breaking during World War I, and that was really interesting, especially because a lot of that was happening just as people were beginning to use just telegraph machines for the first time. Really interesting. I am liking this. Trying to use colors, I found that I was going in with colors that I would normally use, kind of a light color on my lid and darker colors on my crease, but I'm actually trying to go into different colors here. So I'm going to go in with a little bit more warm notes. That's this guy. Kind of coppery. Not really copper. It looks kind of copper on me, but it looks more like a berry in the pan. So we also went up to the main house, which is where I guess a lot of the officers and things were. Yeah, we spent, I don't know, 6 hours just wandering around there, and they had these really interesting, we were sitting on these beautiful lawn chairs for a while. And then all of a sudden we heard American and British voices, and they were talking about baseball and I think it's snooker. There's a British game that's not totally dissimilar from baseball. And they have these, like, unless it's haunted and we were being visited by a ghost, they have these things there where they're kind of, I guess they must be motion activated, where they kind of turn on, and there were these conversations between American soldiers and people at Bletchley Park, like playing baseball, because they did have an exhibit also about things people did to pass the time. You're not really stuck there. You can leave, but you can't tell anybody about what you do. I'll also recommend 2 things if you haven't seen them yet related to Bletchley Park. One is The Imitation Game. That is a movie more about Alan Turing, and he had a really sad life. He was gay in England at a time when it was against the law, and also what he did, I mean, he was a genius, and he also was doing things that he couldn't talk about. So, like all the other people that worked there, although he did get knighted for his work, no one really ever knew how much of a genius he was. They knew he was a genius, but they didn't really understand the scope of his genius while he was alive. And he was gay. And he wasn't hiding it. And well, I mean, you can look it up. It's not a spoiler that he killed himself, but it's a really interesting movie, and I highly recommend it. The other thing that I would recommend, and this is I like crime, and I like mystery and intrigue, and It is a little graphic, not too graphic because it is the BBC and it's not a horror movie, but there's a series called The Bletchley Circle that I would highly, highly recommend. It is a series about these women who were working in Bletchley Park during the war, and not only could they not talk about what they were doing during the war, they also couldn't talk about what they were doing after the war. They signed this National Secrets Act. So you have these brilliant women who are, I mean, women in the US worked during the war in factories and did things. And I'm sure there were women who did kind of spy work, but this was a specific area where we know there were these specific women that did it. I'm going to back you back out. After the war, they're sent back home and they can't talk about it. They can't talk about it with their husbands. They can't talk about it with their friends. They all end up saying that they did like clerical work during the war. And these are these brilliant, brilliant women who were able to exercise this specific muscle during the war. And then all of a sudden they're told not to. And again, yeah, women in the US did things like factory work and things like that, and a lot of those kinds of building munitions, but most women that I have heard about in the US that worked during the war were not working on things they couldn't talk about. And so the Bletchley Circle is about these women, one particular woman, and then her group of friends from Bletchley Park, who just find themselves bored. And wow, that is light. That is my Naked Skin 1.0. I'll use some bronzer today. Yeah, I just highly recommend it. There are two in England. They're called series. Like in the US, if we have a season, it's a season of television. It's called a season. But in the UK, it's called a series. So there are 2 or 3. The first one has 3 episodes. The second one either has 2 or 4. I don't know if the second one is broken into 2 separate series or not. But it's really good. Highly recommend it. And yeah. So we went to Bletchley Park, which was amazing. Then the next day, we went to this town. My husband had not always, but for the last few years, has wanted to go. There's a town called Aviary. I'm still not sure how to pronounce it. But it is kind of like Stonehenge. It's one of those Neolithic stone stone circle places. But the difference between this and Stonehenge is that it is in the town. So it's not like this thing that's kind of up on a hill that you look at or that you can kind of maybe walk into if you pay some money to do it. It's actually in the town. So my husband had made a reservation at B&B, and when we got to the town, I think there were like 480 people who live in the town. It was dark. We were the only people staying there. Really creaky, and I just felt weird about it. I don't know what I think about kind of ghosts and whatnot, but it was just a weird place to be. And hello. And I said, I'm totally happy to stay here, but if I have to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, I'm going to wake you up and you're going to go down the hallway with me, just so we're totally clear about that. And then he said he also really wasn't feeling it. And then we looked at this other place down the street called the Red Lion. And I don't know if it's the most allegedly haunted building in the UK or in England or in Europe or whatever, but there were people there with like full setups of EVP monitors and cameras and kind of lots of things. Like, it was clear there was going to be a lot of ghost hunting happening during the evening. And I just kind of wasn't feeling it. Just felt a little, I wasn't sure if it felt like a Disney kind of a, you know, oh, it's haunted, like the haunted house, or if it actually felt real. The fact that it was in this kind of Neolithic stone circle made me just feel a little more, eh. And there's a TV series that we watched called The Children of the Stone, The Children of the Stones, that was on the BBC in the 70s. And it's really good. It's really trippy. And it was made for children, which is interesting. And we ended up leaving and then going back to the hotel in London, which was an amazing hotel, and watching The Children of the Stones again. Just what we did. But yeah, it was beautiful. I'll insert pictures. But yeah, we did not spend the night there, which was fine with both of us. I would have stayed if he had wanted to, but he really wasn't feeling it either. And because it was kind of late in spring, it was light enough that we could really do a lot of exploring during the day, go to the museum and wander around the stones, and not, like, it wasn't like it got dark really early and we needed to kind of be there the next day. It was really fascinating though. And I'm glad that we went, but I'm also glad that we went back to the hotel. The next day was a shopping day. We went to Liberty London, which is just, woo! I love me some Liberty. I bought a purse and I bought some eyeshadow. And then we went to Selfridges, also with the friend that we had gone to Bletchley Park with. And when we were in Oxford Circus, that was the first time that the first time that I felt kind of like something's not right, was when we were in Paris at Sacre-Cœur, which I kind of always feel that when I'm there. But then when we were in Oxford Circus, I kind of felt like, this is really open. It would be an easy place for someone to just drive up a van and do something crazy. So we were kind of moving quickly that day. And then we went to Selfridges. That's where I bought my Zoeva Cocoa Blend palette. And then the next day we went to the Tate, got a late start, and we took an Uber. So we went over London Bridge, and my husband took a picture, he gets credit for this, of an invader because he was on that side of the car. And we went to the Tate Modern, which was amazing. I'd been there before, he'd been there before, but we'd never been there together. And I didn't know there was a roof. There's a roof that you can just be on, which was beautiful. So we went up to the roof and hung out at the Tate. And then we went down to Borough Market and we're wandering around. There were a couple other invaders that I took pictures of there. And then we went back, probably around 4, 5, we left. And we went to the Whitechapel Gallery, which was beautiful. There was really interesting stuff happening there. And if I can insert a picture or a video, I will. And then we went back to the hotel and rested a little bit. We had drinks at the 10 Bells, which is an old pub in Whitechapel. And it's also one of the places, allegedly, that some of the Jack the Ripper victims hung out at. It's the only building that's reported to be kind of related to it that's still really in the same state that it was in at the time. A lot of the buildings have been torn down or just are not in the same condition that they were in. And then we had dinner at a place called Poppy's. We wanted proper fish and chips and somebody recommended that to us. And it was delicious. We should have gotten it to go because we saw a lot of people getting stuff to go and it was kind of hot and not so great inside, but it was amazing. And we went back to the hotel. I think we watched some more Children of the Stones and then we went to sleep. And then I got up at about 2 in the morning to go to the bathroom and my phone was blowing up and there were, all my friends at home were writing to me to ask me if I was okay. And I'd been asleep. We didn't have the TV on, we were watching Children of the Stones, so we weren't aware that the London Bridge attack had happened. And that was just unexpected. But not unexpected, but it felt, that weird kind of feeling that we've been having the whole time was, I don't know, it was just something really bad and weird about it. So we contacted our friend. We were supposed to have dinner with them, with her and her new boo that night, the night of the 4th, but we canceled because we would have had to go through, we were in Bethnal Green and she was about a 45-minute drive away, and the tube just didn't feel safe either. So we stayed in. I filmed a video. We wandered around. We went to Brick Lane, which was really cool, but it just, again, didn't feel very safe. So we came back to the hotel, had a really nice dinner in the hotel. And then the next day we had breakfast at this really nice, not nice, well, it was nice, but not fancy, just like good, proper British full breakfast situation place. And then we went to the Museum of Childhood, and I'll do my lips super quickly and then I'll tell you about the Museum of Childhood. Okay, so I'll insert pictures along the way. The Museum of Childhood was a place that was very near our hotel. My cousin and I had stayed in the same hotel 2 years ago, and we had seen the Museum of Childhood, but it just didn't seem something like we wanted to do. Neither of us have kids, and it kind of felt like we weren't sure if it was going to be like the Sigmund Freud Museum of Childhood or whatever. But it ended up being kind of a little bit like that, just because the toys, it's a museum of toys, really is what it is, and kind of the things of childhood. And some of the things of childhood from days gone by are a little bit scary. A lot of clowns, a lot of marionettes. There was a doll named Cindy, who was a kind of a Barbie-like doll that I had when I was a kid. She's a little bit more girl next door, and the thing that I liked about her is that Barbie, because her legs split like that, Cindy's legs opened up like this, which is useful if you have like plastic horses and you want Cindy to ride the horse. So they did have a Cindy there, which was neat. They had this really trippy dollhouse on the entry, which is this ghost house, and I guess that the idea is that homes that have been around for a long time have had lots of different people, living in them. So the dolls in the dollhouse, instead of being like dolls, were kind of gauzy, ghosty dolls. What else was there? There was a really creepy Jack-in-the-Box, clown Jack-in-the-Box with eyes that were kind of googly. Eyes like that scare me. Or don't scare me, but they're a little bit unsettling. Eyes that like open, like doll eyes that open, or that kind of move. It was a little bit scary. Glad that we went. There was a lot to see there, and I'm really glad that we went. Oh, and then the hotel, we were staying at a hotel called Town Hall, London, in Bethnal Green, and there's a hotel dog. Her name is Dizzy. I'll insert a picture of her. She's a rescued greyhound. And then the next day we left. So yeah, that was our honeymoon. It was just shy of 3 weeks. We left on a Thursday, arrived on a Friday, and came back on a Tuesday. And I am grateful to be home with my friends and my family and things that are familiar, and outside of the fray of things that were happening in London and now the fire, and it's nice to be home, but I do miss it. So I think that we're going to start planning honeymoon or honeymoon 2, or we kind of talk about it being the endless honeymoon because we don't want it to be like the honeymoon's over and now we're never going to do that again. So we go away on little weekend things, and I think we'll probably plan another big trip. So thank you so much for watching. This was probably longer than I meant for it to be, and there are 2 of them. So thank you for spending time with me and for watching this. And if you haven't yet subscribed, please do, and hit the alert button to get an alert every time I upload new content, and hit the like button if you like this, and I'll see you again very soon. Take care. Bye.